I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
And I'm going to tell you how to make an offer that a seller cannot refuse. In this video, I'm going to answer the burning question, how much do I offer on a house? I get this question a lot, so I figured out, let me make a video about it. So I'm going to give you strategies on what you should offer on a house, whether you're in a buyer's market or in a seller's market. Yes, we still have seller's markets going on in this country, so I'm going to be addressing both types of markets. So let's get into it right now. So as I said, we're going to share with you the strategies that you're going to use when making an offer in the buyer's market and the seller's market. And yes, I'm going to give you like a range, a percentage of how much you should go under or go over. Before I get into that, first thing I want to talk about are the key factors you need to be looking at in determining what you're going to be offering. So first and foremost, we're going to look at the local comparables. What have similar homes to this one that you want to buy? What have they sold for? This is something your real estate agent is going to be looking at. This is super important. We want to get an idea of what's going on in that market and what homes have sold for. This is the first thing we're going to look at. The next thing we're going to look at are the days on market. We want to see how long has this listing been on the market. Now, if it's a buyer's market, you're going to see it's going to be sitting on the market for a while. Seller's market, not so much. The next factor we're looking at is the condition of the home. Does it look like it needs some repairs? Is it looking a little tired? We need to take that into consideration too. The next factor, obviously, your budget, your financing. And finally, another very important factor we need to look at are the seller's motivations. Like, how bad do they want to sell the house? Are they flexible? Are they just like testing the market and, they're waiting for that right price to come along? We need to understand what the motivation is. So let's dive into making an offer in a buyer's market. Now, if you're in a buyer's market, what that means is there are more homes for sale than there are buyers. Okay, so you have an abundance of homes to choose from. So sellers are actually competing against each other now. They want to sell their house, but there's so many to choose from. Now they have to be competitive. But this is a good thing for buyers because it's giving you leverage. In buyer's markets, it's typically advised to offer 5 to 10% below the list price. Now, the important thing is here is you want to come in low enough where you're going to have room to negotiate and there's going to be some countering back and forth, but you need to have that final number in your head of what you're willing to spend on the house. So going about, again, 5 to 10% below list, it's a good starting point to start the negotiation with the seller. Now, when you're making this offer, this is where the comps come in. You got to bring receipts. So when your realtor makes the offer, what they should be doing is saying, hey, this house on 123 Main Street sold for this price, and this one that sold on East Elm Street sold for this price. We think our offer is justified and it's within this range. That's what they should be doing. They need to come with receipts and show the comps. Now, hopefully the listing agent did their homework and they priced the house somewhat within that range. And if the market has shifted again since they put the house on the market, it could be commanding a lower price right now. So make sure the agent looks at the comps, and they should be presenting that when they're presenting the offer to the listing agent. Let's talk about inspections and repairs. In buyer's markets now, they're getting the repairs, they're getting the credits towards repairs, which is a great thing. But I will tell you, do not go in with a laundry list of items on your inspection list. I'm just telling you that right now. We want to look at like bigger items, okay? Like structural, environmental, and mechanical, okay? Still want to look at those things because I will tell you, if you're going to go back and say, hey, can you regrout the tub? Or can you regrout the tile in the bathroom? You're asking for cosmetic things. More than likely, you're not going to get that done. Now, let's get back into the concessions, the seller concessions. If you want the seller to pay for your closing cost, that's a thing again. That went away the last 5 years because the market was just booming everywhere. Now, people are actually getting concessions towards their closing costs. So you can write that in your offer now. You can ask for, say, $10,000, $15,000 towards your closing costs, and people are getting it. They really are. So definitely ask for that in your offer. You can do that. Now, in a buyer's market, what some people will do is they'll make an offer to say, hey, I'm going to buy the house as is, meaning that they'll do their inspection, but they're not going to ask for any repairs, but they're going to buy it at a lower price. This is a thing. So you can do that as well. And if you're in like a really high, strong buyer's market, the seller wants to offload that house, more than likely they will take your as-is offer. Now, the same goes with cash offers too. I get this question a lot. People are saying, how much should I offer on cash? Now, I would offer the same thing. Come 5 to 10% below list, maybe a little bit lower, because you're cash. Why do people say that? Because of cash. Because you're not getting a mortgage, okay? Because sellers don't want to deal with waiting for you to get your final approval on your mortgage. The mortgage contingency can screw things up, because something could happen in the 11th hour and all of a sudden the person can't get financing, and then the seller has to put their house back on the market. So this is what makes cash offers attractive to sellers. So in the buyer's market, you can offer under list. But again, I wouldn't go too crazy under list price. You don't want to be insulting the seller and getting rejected right off the bat, because when they do that and then you try to come back, sometimes they won't even want to deal with you because it just left a bad taste in your mouth. I'm just being honest with you. Okay, let's talk about strategies for a seller's market. Yes, there are still a lot of sellers markets going on in this country. It hasn't entirely shifted to a buyer's market, so I have to address the seller's market. Now, let's talk about the strategies of what we're going to do. Right off the bat, you want to go in with a strong offer. But before we do that, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have your real estate agent talk to the listing agent to find out what is the activity on this house. Are there offers already on this house? How many offers? And typically the agents will not reveal what the actual offers are, but we can try to get it out of them. They can try to get it out of them and say, can you give me a ballpark? Is it way above ask? Is it a strong offer? Little secret that I've learned: strong offers means, to me, that's what I've learned over the years. Strong offer means it's at least at asking price or slightly above. Really strong offer means it's really high above asking price. This is what I've learned. So, little piece of information there for you. So how much over ask are we going? Well, typically people are going, 1 to 3% above list price, but it depends on the market. Again, this is where your real estate agent is going to pull comparables to look at what has sold in that same town. And again, we're looking at similar homes to the one that you want to buy. So they'll be able to tell you that, these homes sold for 1% over list, 2% over list, and then you can make your decision based off of that. Another strategy we're going to talk about are the contingencies. And I'm talking about inspection and appraisal. The inspection contingencies, you know what I'm going to say. Do not waive the inspections. How many times do I say this? Don't waive them. Limit them to structure, environmental, mechanical, and safety. Do not waive them. I'm just trying to save you here. If I know you want the house really bad, it's not a good idea. I've heard time and time again of people coming back and saying after they closed, they ended up having to spend $20,000-$30,000 in repairs because they didn't do a home inspection and catch the problems. Even now in these sellers markets, they're still strong, but it's not as crazy. So you can absolutely just limit those inspections. Now let's talk about the appraisals. This is another big thing. People are waiving the appraisal gap. What does that mean? So waiving the appraisal gap means that, say the house is listed at $600,000. You offered $650,000. If the house appraises, say, at $600,000, but you agreed to buy the house for $650,000, when you waive the appraisal gap, what you're telling the seller is you're going to have the money to cover that $50,000 gap. You're going to be able to bring that extra cash to closing to make up that gap. What I recommend doing is you do a limit on the appraisal gap coverage. So say if the house appraised at $600,000, you're paying $650,000, but you're only willing to pay up to $15,000 on the appraisal gap. So what does that mean? The house has to appraise at $635,000. But what I would do first and foremost is talk to your lender before you even put the offer in, to have this conversation regarding the appraisal gap coverage and see how much would the private mortgage insurance be if you didn't have enough cash to bring to close. That's how they would pay for that gap. They're going to put it on your mortgage, but you're going to pay it through PMI. But Again, I'm not a lender, I'm a real estate agent. You need to talk to your mortgage lender about that. Now, I want to touch on escalation clauses. Escalation clauses are a big thing in many states, except for here in New Jersey. I don't know why, but we don't like to do them here in New Jersey. The attorneys don't like them. I don't understand it. So what is an escalation clause? An escalation clause is where a buyer is willing to raise their price by a certain increment up to a maximum price if another bona fide offer was higher than the offer they submitted. So let's go back to the $600,000 house. Okay, so say the house is listed as $600,000. So your escalation clause is going to state the buyer agrees to increase their offer by $5,000 above any competing offer up to a maximum of $625,000. So if another buyer offers $610,000, your offer is automatically going to go up to $615,000. Honestly, I think escalation clauses are a great thing. I wish we did them more in Jersey, but again, attorneys don't like them. They don't like them. I don't know why we don't do them. Anybody who's watching from New Jersey, you understand why we don't do escalation clauses? Can you tell me? Because it drives me crazy. Anyway, I digress. So another thing we want to look at are the terms. And this is where, again, it's important for your real estate agent to talk to the listing agent to understand what the seller's motivations, what's important to them with the sale. So for example, you can offer a lease back or a use and occupancy. Say the seller needs extra time to move on to their next home. You can say, hey, we can close in 45 days, but we'll let the seller live there for another 30 days while they get their affairs in order and get the house packed up and moved out. This is key. This is such a big thing. It works beautifully. Sellers love that. So that's something else that you can incorporate into your offer. Bottom line is you want to have your offer structured really nice with the terms, the price, all the things, and package up in a nice little bow to present to the listing agent. Just say, hey, this is our offer. And, we're better than the other buyers because this is what we're offering the seller. You want to stand out. First and foremost, that's the most important thing. So these are the strategies that I would use working in a seller's market. Some other tips that I want to share with you is, most importantly, do not overbid on a home more than you can afford. Don't put yourself in that situation where you're overspending, you're overshoot, and you're going to regret it. I saw this way too many times where people were they want the house, they want $150,000 over asking, $200,000 over asking. Look, those days are long gone. I'm not seeing that too much anymore. Maybe $20,000, $50,000 over asking, $75,000 over asking, but it really hasn't been that crazy. Do not feel like you have to overshoot by that amount. It's like 100,000 or more. Don't do that, especially if you're going to be spreading yourself too thin. Trust me, you do not want to be doing that. Always have your walkaway number in your head. All right. So whether you're in a buyer's market or seller's market, if you are comfortable with the number that you're offering and you are like that, this is a number that I'm happy to walk away from this. If I don't get the house, it's okay. That's your number. Stick with that number. Don't cave and feel like if the seller comes back and asks for more and you have your number in your head, don't cave to that pressure. Most importantly, work with a good real estate agent who knows the local market trends. They have strong negotiation skills, and they're going to guide you properly. And by the way, if you need to be connected to a real estate agent in your market, I got you covered. You can scan the QR code here, or you can click that link down below, and I will happily get you connected to an agent in your area. I hope you found this video valuable today, and I hope that you'll be able to utilize these strategies when you're making an offer on your next home. Thank you so much for watching me today to get your dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker, and I will see you next time.